What can you tell me about the processing?
The processing that culinary farms as Chiles go through is a very interesting process. There is a large part of the process which is proprietary, that our supplier has developed, that they prefer to keep very quiet because they have created some processes to clean the chilies and to remove the dust, to remove lead, which is inherent in the dust in large portions of Mexico, to remove insect fragments. Every pound of chile the culinary farm sells has been washed after the chiles were dried. It's an incredible process. So the quality and the consistency and the dependability and the food safety aspect of the chilies of culinary farms is very interesting. The chili flakes are milled into larger particle sizes and then sifted so that the particle size is very consistent. So as you can see from the particle size, there's not a lot of little fine bits of dust. So they're sifted so that you have very, very consistent particle size, and all of these particle sizes for flakes are very, very similar. The powder form is ground to a very particular mesh size, and in ingredients you use a mesh size. This is mesh 30, so the particle size for the flakes is very consistent. The particle size for the ground is very consistent, and this is all done through milling and sifting.
Kurt, can you tell me what the chilies are used for?
The list is long. It can be used in marinades, cheeses, sauces, salsas. I have seen chipotle in bread. I have seen it in ice cream. Ancho is fabulous with chocolate. We have seen numerous applications where people will take chocolate and add a little bit of chili. I've seen it also with guajillo chili in chocolate. Barbecue sauces, salad dressings, chipotle ranch salad dressings. There is no boundaries to what you could apply or how you could utilize chilies in whatever application you're talking about. Soups, it's just, there's no end to it.
So I suppose that if you understand the flavor of the chili, you could add it
to anything. It is nothing more than what is the limitation of someone's creativity. So someone may think that I would never ever put chile in soup, and somebody else might think it would be wonderful with ancho because ancho has a wonderful flavor, a little vanillan, leathery, almost a licorice flavor. And maybe they would like that flavor in the soup. It doesn't impart a lot of heat, but it imparts flavor. So someone else might think, well, maybe I'd like to have a little guajillo in my scrambled eggs. How chilies are used is only limited by one's creativity.
So I could put it in mashed potatoes?
Absolutely.
On fish, on meat, my vegetarian dishes?
There is no limitation.
You talked about ancho being a little vanilla, licorice.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about
Chilaca?
the chilaca?
Chilaca is a little on the fruity side. It's almost a touch sweet. Again, it's very mild pungency. Chile de árbol is more of an astringent heat. It's more of a sharp, biting kind of flavor. So it's more of a kind of a vegetative flavor, kind of an earthy flavor. Chipotle is a jalapeno, so it's going to have a more rounded heat, but of course with the chipotle, the primary flavor that comes out is the smokiness because of how it's processed. With a guajillo is kind of a mild, kind of a medium chili. There's not a huge amount of flavor that comes out of it. A lot of times with a guajillo, it's kind of a leathery, kind of a tannic, a little more of a flavor, but it doesn't have a huge flavor that comes out one way or the other, kind of like some of the other chilies do. Now, a pasilla is a chili that is not a very heavily used chili in the United States. Personally, I don't know why, because I think that a pasilla is really interesting because it has a very earthy flavor. It's a beautiful chili.
Kirk, I've been hearing more about moles. Can you explain what that is?
Oh, mole. One of my favorite things about Mexican cooking. I just love moles. There are many, many moles. They are, a mole is, a good mole is made with probably at least 15 ingredients and can take 2 days to make. The chilies have to be cooked. They have to be put together. There are peanuts, there are oils, there are herbs, there are all kinds of things that go into it. And it would be like saying a minestrone. Of course, everybody knows what a minestrone is, but everybody makes their minestrone a little different. And that's exactly the way it is with a mole. There are moles that have chocolate in them. There are moles that are green. There are moles that are red. So there's a broad spectrum of moles. And Culinary Farms is looking into the possibility of handling a line of moles. And they're very exciting.
As you were talking about the weather influence, Kirk, I was thinking about does that affect the price of the chilies?
It absolutely can. Again, because a chili is an agricultural product, it does have influences from the weather. And there could be very bad weather that comes across the country or a particular growing region. Obviously, Mexico is subject to hurricanes from time to time. So just like any agricultural crop, there can be weather issues that will affect the supply. It is not consistent as it with tomatoes. Tomatoes that Culinary Farms uses for their dried tomatoes are contracted before the season even begins, so everybody knows what the price is. But with chiles, the prices can move even within the year, but what primarily affects the pricing for chiles is how much of a crop there was and what kind of condition the crop was.
So that leads me to the question, when are these chiles grown?
Jalapenos kind of grow all year long because, as you know, in Mexico it goes all the way from the southern U.S. border, but it can still get very, very cold, and in Zacatecas it's very high, it can get very cold. But down in the southern part of Mexico it's becoming more tropical, and so there is not such a great variation in the heat throughout the year. So there are some areas where you can get green jalapenos all year round. So each region has a different growing season. For the most part, chiles are harvested, the dry chiles that we're interested in, not fresh market, but the dry chiles that we are interested in that you see here tend to be harvested mostly in the late fall. So starting about October and generally finishing up by the latter part of November or early December.
You keep mentioning jalapenos, but you don't have jalapenos here.
We have had a challenge finding a good source of jalapenos. I believe that we have found that source of jalapenos, and we will start selling jalapenos in the flake and ground form in the very near future.
So if you could summarize what we have talked about.
How do I summarize 10 years of fascination with chiles and the regions and the weather and the varieties and the things that you do with them? In summary, I find chiles absolutely fascinating. I enjoy them. I enjoy what they go into. I enjoy the culture. The primary thing to understand, I think, with chiles is that Culinary Farms only sells flakes and ground to homogenize the variations and the pungency and the color of chiles. The chiles are clean. They're very, very safe. They come from an outstanding source. And I feel that the chiles that Culinary Farms offers into the market is as good as anybody's, and in most instances, probably better.
For more information, you can go to the website, culinaryfarms.com, or you can call customer service at Culinary Farms in Woodland, California.